Good morning, everyone. My name is Mina Jane. I'm one of the programming librarians at the Cary Library. So happy to have you here for this special program with Trisha Kennealy on making roast chicken and a lemon roast chicken too. This is gonna be really exciting. Really quick, I just wanted to thank our Cary Library Foundation for supporting all of our adult programming. We would not be able to do this without them. Trisha Pérez Kennealy is the owner of the Inn at Hastings Park, where she is filming from today. This is a Lexington landmark. She's been creating cooking videos on the Inn's Instagram account for all kinds of culinary enthusiasts, so make sure to check her out over there if you're on Instagram. She has a wealth of knowledge and local tips for cooking through these difficult times and regular times as well. We have been very lucky to have Trisha here all summer long and now doing this Back to Basics program so we can learn some really basic tricks to keep cooking at home. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Trisha.
Good morning, everyone. It's my pleasure to welcome all of you to the Inn at Hastings Park. Hopefully many of you have visited here before.
Okay, that's a pound.
Got it. Go ahead.
Are we good?
Yep.
All right, so I'm currently standing in our library here at the Inn. Behind me is a portion of my collection of I probably have over 400 cookbooks. So I've always felt an affinity for the library. Not a lot of people know that the namesake of the Inn is named for the Inn at Hastings Park. It is the same person that the Cary Memorial Library is named for because she donated the amount of money to buy the initial book. So I feel a very strong affinity to the library. So this is perfect, my being able to bring my passion for cooking into the Inn. This space actually, one of the things, my silver lining from the pandemic has been rekindling my passion for culinary education. So here at the Inn, I am going to be offering cooking classes to both in-house guests and guests from the local area. So if this sparks your interest, please take a look at our website and find out a little bit more about what we're going to be doing culinary-wise, both in here, in what we're calling my culinary studio, and outside in my culinary garden. If you've driven by, you probably have seen some beautiful flower beds and I have a new whole platform out there to cook out there, and it's really been a lot of fun for me.
I have to interrupt you and just squee a little bit and say how exciting that is.
Oh, it's amazing. It's amazing. It was an idea that we had in the middle of the summer, and it's already up and running. We've already welcomed many people into the garden. It's been fantastic. So please come and check it out. So what I'm doing right now, I personally believe that everyone should have a roasted chicken recipe in their repertoire. And I recognize that a lot of people are really reluctant, if they are not experienced cooks, to get a whole chicken and try to figure out what they can do with it. What I've done ahead of time is I've taken the wrapping off of the chicken. I rinsed it under cold water, both on the outside and in the inside. And then I cut a lemon in half. I inserted it in the cavity. That's the cavity of the chicken, right? And I've tied it very loosely with a knot. I'm going to show you how to do that a little bit more purposefully, but I want to get this one into the 450-degree oven. I have a portable oven that is a workhorse. If any of you have taken my classes, my other Zoom classes, you will have seen it. I am liberally sprinkling salt on this chicken. I'm not adding any fat. I actually think that the fat from the chicken itself is more than enough to keep it going. I have this oven at 450. I would recommend doing it a little bit lower, but I'm trying to accelerate the process a little bit so that you can have a sense of what the chicken will look like in its finished product. So if you see the light, you want to make sure that there's a good amount of space. You'll also see right here on the right-hand side, the glass is actually hot. You'll see it's the chicken neck, the gizzards, and the liver. And I actually do like to cook those because they're a really good source of protein. And I actually think they're very, very, very flavorful. We're going to put that in there and we're going to take a look at it in about 30 minutes. But for now, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the structure of the chicken and what I did with some of the other, actually, I want to put this in there too. This was an onion that I cut in half. I'm actually also going to put it in there as well to cook alongside, because I think it adds. And usually, and what's a little bit different about the way that I've done this, most people would use a roasting pan and put the chicken right inside. I have it resting on a rack because I have potatoes under there. Usually I would use fingerling potatoes, but today I use just regular russet. You could use russet, all-purpose, fingerlings, whichever one you want. But what I'm doing is I'm relying on the fat that's going to come out of the chicken when it's cooking, and it's going to baste those potatoes and give us a really, really flavorful potato flavor. So coming over here, just a few things that I did to prep that chicken. As I said, this chicken weighs a little bit less than 5 pounds. If you're feeding a family of 4, a 5-pound chicken, maybe a little less, will probably be enough, more than enough for one meal. I like, when I'm cooking roasted chicken, to make sure that I'm going to have additional chicken left over if I wanted to have some chicken to make a chicken salad, chicken to put over a green salad, or just chicken to have, you know, as a protein to have available, especially given the fact that most of us, if you have children that are now home for breakfast, lunch, and dinner multiple days a week. And it's only increasing to the challenge of, you know, trying to keep your family healthy and fed. So this is a whole chicken. And as I said, one of the things that I did was I trusted. Trusting means, and I'm just going to do a simple demo on this. It means you're basically tying the chicken together. And the reason you want to do that is, if you look here, that's really wide open. And if I were to go and bake the chicken and it were splayed out like that, it's actually not going to cook evenly. One of the challenges about cooking a chicken is your white meat has less fat in it. So it is going to cook quicker. And a lot of times people say that when they cook a chicken, the white meat is very dry when they do a roasted chicken. Some of the ways that you can use to prevent that: I use a lemon. You could use an orange. You could use a lime. These citrus fruits add moisture. And what I do is I insert it in the cavity, and then I'm going to take my chicken and I'm bringing it together. I'm making it nice and compact. Some of the cooking books will tell you like some really fancy, you know, different trusses, but really all you need to do, I don't care what it looks like. It doesn't have to look pretty. If it works for you, then it's done. I basically am tying and flipping and tying a knot, right? But this is one of those skills that you got to practice and figure out what works for you. I have very small hands, so that's a method that works really well for me. Some people that have larger hands are able, you know, will tie the wings down and do like a really fancy truss. You also might have seen Julia Child, Jack Pepin. They've like demonstrated like taking a needle and thread and sewing it through. That's also a very common technique that people use when they're making a stuffed turkey or a stuffed duck. You can do it if you want to, but this works just as well. Super easy, not time consuming, and you can just get it done. All right. Do not let perfection be the enemy of the good. If you have a method that works for you, just go for it. The other thing that was really different, as I said, is some people would just put it in a roasting pan on a roasting rack. You have a broiler pan. Use the broiler pan to sit your chicken on, and then the juices can come out right over the potatoes, and you're kind of killing 2 birds with 1 stone. You have your starch on the potatoes. They're really done. If you want to add root vegetables like parsnips, you could add parsnips, you could add turnips, you could add carrots, which are particularly beautiful right now. Pick whichever vegetables are, you know, really delicious to you, and you can go ahead and do that. What I'm going to do right now is I'm actually going to teach you how to break down this raw chicken, because another thing that you can do, although I didn't include the recipe and I can send it along the way, is you disappeared. Are we still there?
Yes. Yeah, we're all here.
Okay. Do you need my code?
Oh, wait, we lost your picture.
I don't know how to go back.
Except I'm not in the picture. I'll be right back there. Okay. So one of the things that I want to teach you how to do is break down this chicken. It is much more cost effective to buy a whole chicken than it is to buy chicken parts. I have a friend who I've been teaching how to cook. He's in his 50s, never really cooked before, and he was astonished at the price differential between a process. And what I mean by process is that it's broken down. So if you're buying a boneless chicken breast, which has its time and purpose, and I'm going to do something with this in a minute, it's going to be much more expensive than buying a whole chicken. So as many of you, some of you have participated before, my son is very into cooking videos, and he just showed me there was a competitor for Master Chef. I guess Gordon Ramsay does this too. They break down a chicken blindfolded because they know what it feels like. And not many people have taken the time to walk you through what that might feel like. Julia Child was very big on telling people to play with their chicken. Play with your chicken. Feel the way the joints move. See how it's like, I can kind of tell where I need to put my knife because I can tell where those loose points are, right? So I'm going to take my knife and I'm actually going to cut through this skin that is separating, that's connecting like the top of the thigh to the breast.
What would be the best knife to use for that?
I'm using a boning knife, but if you have a chef's, like some people don't have a knife set that has that many knives, you know, your chef's knife will do, right? Nice and easy. I got that leg and that thigh off. Now, look, it's moving. See that? And I'm kind of remembering where that moved, and I went right through, right? Cut that. That's my 2 pieces. All right, then I'm going to come and do the other leg again. So notice there's this skin here. All right, I'm going to come right through it, right? Right? There's my bone. The other one came off better because I started at the right angle. There we go. See that? Okay. Again, I'm moving it. Can you see it? It's like right there.
Yeah.
Right through. Right? I'm not fighting it. I'm just using the structure of the chicken itself to do what I need to do. The wing. So what I often do with the wing, you know, sometimes I make a collection of wings and save them up and then make wings when we're watching a football game or something. Or they're really a bony part, because think about all the bones that are in here. You've got you look at all these bones. That's an incredible source of gelatin. So sometimes what I do is I store all of my wings, and then I'm going to cut off this back. Beautiful. So this chicken back right here is awesome for making stock. So you can either store it, or if you wanted to fortify some water, you could even just take this part of the chicken, throw it into 4 cups of water, and sort of let it cook till you'll see all this bony stuff and the blood that's left in the chicken will come up to the surface in the form of scum. That's what I call it. That's what it looks like. Strain that off. You can use that water that you fortified with the bones to make rice. It tastes delicious, right? Or it's the basis if you wanted to add a carrot, some celery, an onion. It's the basis for making a chicken stock. So now I'm left with my breast. And if I want the breast to be boneless, I'm just going to come along. I'll turn it this way. I'm just going to come along the breastbone and cut it out. See that? And actually, I'm going to change tactics today and do something a little bit different. I'm going to save that chicken breast. All right, if I wanted to do a boneless breast, there you go. Super easy. I have a boneless breast. I'm going to do a second one too. All right. If, Christine, if you get in here, do this when you're if you want to try breaking down a whole chicken. Right, what I'm doing is I'm running my finger along the bone. You want to sort of get to know the structure of that chicken. right? As you're doing it, you want to practice these things. Beautiful. That's my wishbone in there. All right, so now I have this chicken carcass. I'm gonna use that. I always like to have a scrap box. I'm gonna put my back in there. I'm gonna make some stock later on when we're done today, and I'm gonna use that to feed my family. You notice that I was wearing gloves. I know that we all are using gloves a lot these days. I highly recommend them when you're working with meat. And just so that you know, I'm sure that people are wondering about this. I burnt myself last week. And I think that that's important for people to know that even those of us who are trained, we do get burned in the kitchen occasionally. It hasn't happened in a long time. But if you do not put butter on it. Do not use any of those old wives' tales. You want to put it under cold water. You want to put an ice pack. Don't ever put ice directly on your burn. But I got it treated. I'm okay. I live to cook another day. So what I'm
very glad to hear that.
Yes, I know, right? You'll all be happy to know I was actually making fried fish. I did like a beer batter. It's like I basically take a can of beer and mix it with a can of flour. Was using doing this really nice rockfish for my husband and my sons. The best part, my husband has a very good sense of humor, and I did take it this way. He was like, the fish was really good. So I'm really glad that they enjoyed their dinner. And I honestly, it wasn't that I was doing anything foolish. It was just one of those things. What it might have been was there might have been some water on the fish, and water and oil. Water will make oil splatter. So that's probably what I did. All right. So I'm moving on.
We do have a question from Deborah. What do you think of the rotisserie chickens that those sold at Costco? Are they healthy?
They're injected with fat. Right. So, I mean, they're really good in a pinch, but it's not something that I would tell you to make like a mainstay. Like if you're in a hurry, I get it. Like it's better, it's a better choice than other things. But I would I'm going to teach you how to make chicken in 15 minutes. So this is probably less time than it would take you to go from Lexington to Costco and back. But I get it. We sometimes do it, but you do have to remember those chickens are industrially raised. So they're already injected with fat and antibiotics and hormones when they're being grown, when they're being grown, and then they're being given additional fat. They're being injected with additional fat when they're being cooked.
Thank you.
So
one more question. Where did you get your chickens from? And I might have asked this already.
So I buy the chickens that I use for my family. This I actually picked up. This is an organic chicken that I picked up in the store today. We in the restaurant we use a combination of chickens. We use a product from D'Artagnan that's called Green Circle. It is available at Wilson Farm. It's sustainably raised. It's fed of extremely high quality. Someone needs to mute. And then at home, I actually buy my chickens from Codman Farm in Lincoln. You can order chickens throughout the year. They're raised, they're free range, they're served, they're fed the highest quality food. They also, they're heritage breed. They're really fantastic. They're not cheap, but they're worth it. So that's why, I feel really comfortable making a full chicken.
Okay, thank you.
The other thing that you can do if you're in a hurry, you saw how quickly I broke down that chicken, and I get it. I've been doing this for a long time, but it's something that if you practice, it'll become really easy to you too. The other thing that you can do, and I will send around this recipe, is a 1-pan oven roasted chicken. So what I would do is I would take all of these pieces. I would add potatoes, sweet potatoes, carrots, onions, toss it all in a cookie sheet, put it in the oven for about 35 minutes at about 425, and you will have roasted chicken, but it'll just be broken down. So I'm going to take this chicken breast. I'm going to season it liberally with a little bit of salt. I'm going to rub that salt in. And Christine, you want to come in tight here? So this is a combination of oil. It's 2 tablespoons of oil, 2 tablespoons olive oil, 2 tablespoons of butter. The reason I'm using that combination is that it helps achieve a really nice, that Pilar effect, that caramelization on the chicken that we're looking for. So this is probably going to take about, I'm going to give it about 6 or 7 minutes on that side. I'm going to take off my raw chicken glut. So this, like pan searing this chicken breast is the basis for so many dishes. I'm going to make it, this isn't breaded, but if it was breaded, you could, people will make a breaded cutlet to do like a marsala or a piccata. Marsala has the wine, piccata. This is one of my favorite quick go-to dinners. I have a lemon that's ready here. And normally I wouldn't have it on the thing with the raw chicken, but I know that I'm cooking this off when I add it. I also have a container full of capers here because they add a really nice salty brininess. And so what's going to happen is the chicken is cooking and I have these ingredients ready to do my finishing sauce. If I were making dinner for my family at home right now, what I would be doing right now is I would be preparing my vegetable. So I would be doing a green bean. I would be doing a broccoli. And what I would do is I actually would steam them either on the stovetop or actually in the microwave. It's probably one of the best functions of the microwave is steaming vegetables. You don't need to use a lot of water, so the nutrients aren't being drained out, and it actually works really quickly. So if I were doing broccoli, I would break it into the crowns. I would probably put like a little bit of water, maybe a 1/4 inch of water on the bottom of the Pyrex pan, and I would put it in the microwave for about 4 to 5 minutes. Then I would take it out. My children do like to have butter on their broccoli, so I'll put a little bit of butter, not a stick. I'm talking like a tablespoon of butter. I will put it on top of the butter, put it back in and melt it. And then I would toss it with my, a seasoning that I might like. I use a lot of Camp Mix. Camp Mix is a product that it has salt, pepper, onion powder, celery salt. It's really flavorful. And my family, really seems to like that. So what I'm looking for in here is I'm beginning to see that there's that white, that it's cooking around. And one of the biggest mistakes we make in the United States is that we're afraid to use fat and we don't let our pots get hot enough. This is 4 tablespoons of fat. This probably, one breast, I'm sure that my boys could probably eat that, but that's probably about 6 or 7 ounces of chicken, which is probably a little bit high for a serving. So you could get away, probably like halving these breasts and serving them. I normally probably would have done 4 breasts in this amount of fat, but I figure for the purpose of demonstration. So really the good rule of thumb is for each breast, I would use, equal parts oil and butter. I might have it be equal to a tablespoon of fat for each of them. And you actually can get away with it. The pot that I'm using is a variation of a nonstick pot. I'm actually using a portable induction cooktop here. Induction is much more popular in Europe. It's a very energy efficient, precise way of cooking, but there's some great portable products that obviously work well for when I want to cook. I like to cook in interesting places, so I'm cooking in my in my library here at the end.
Trisha, we do have a few questions.
Sure.
Effie wants to know, what do you think of Belle and Evans chicken?
I think that Belle and Evans is a great product. I mean, again, like they are raising them in industrial quantities, but I think it's a really great option for a quality chicken that you can buy in the supermarket.
Okay. And Anita would like to know, what brand of gloves do you generally use?
So these are actually commercial grade. We buy these from Cisco because they obviously come to the inn to deliver a lot of our products like that. But it's really also a matter too, like these actually, obviously black gloves are not the prettiest, but these are actually really comfortable. Our whole culinary team seems to gravitate towards these. You want to make sure that there isn't powder in them. People are allergic to latex, so you need to make sure if anyone is in that category that you have an option that's not that. I'm going to grab a quick pair of tongs. Hold on.
Oh my gosh, I'm getting so hungry.
let's take a peek and see what this looks like on the other side. Ah, look at that.
Beautiful.
So I also can actually tell that I probably could have used a little bit less fat in this pan to do what I'm doing. I think it's probably going to take like another 4 or 5 minutes on that one, but we're going to let that keep going. And as I said, I have my capers and my lemon, along with a plate for my chicken ready to go.
Effie also wants to know, the recipe calls for chicken breast. Is there a difference if you use thighs?
I love chicken thighs. They're probably my favorite part of the chicken. So if I, don't have a whole chicken, or if I'm on the run, I would totally use chicken thighs. A bone-in, skin-on chicken thigh is actually one of my favorite pieces of chicken to work with. Again, season generously. You don't need to add any fat. You don't need to add olive oil, butter. You don't need any of that. You can do it on the grill, on a meat, like on indirect heat. And what I mean by that is heat your grill up, get all your burners on, and then when you're ready to cook, cut off the middle burner so there's no heat right under the chicken. Put the chicken right in the middle, and about 30-35 minutes, you'll have a beautiful, beautiful chicken thigh. Same thing in the oven. You could also do this with boneless, skinless chicken thighs as well. And I think that you may find that it actually has a little bit more flavor, and you probably could cook it with a little bit less fat in the pan, because there's more fat in the dark meat.
And do you cook you cook it long? You can cook it longer.
The chicken thigh?
Yeah.
You can, but you don't need to. When the chicken thigh is broken down like into its individual piece, you should, if you have like a good source of heat going, you should be able to get it to where you need it to be 30-35 minutes. It's actually one of my favorite things to make and have for lunch. I love having like a cold chicken thigh. That's actually one of my favorite things to have.
Thank you.
So that's interesting. What I'm commenting on is that one of them seems to be cooking a little bit faster, so I'm just kind of moving it around in the pot. So what I'm looking for over here on my, let's come take a peek at my chicken. So you can see this, let's see if I can see it, yeah. Okay, if you look over here, like on the, I don't know if the camera's gonna pick it up. You can actually see the fat from the chicken bubbling under the skin. It actually kind of looks like my hand. It looked like my burn last week. I don't mean, that's kind of crazy, but you can see that it's getting golden. And the potatoes, and if we angle down, you can see that there's liquid releasing into the pan. So that's a combination of the fat from the chicken and the juice of the lemon. Oh, go right there under the wing. If you go right there, oh, it just dripped. Oh, it was like almost on cue. I don't know if they saw it, but you could see like the fat dripping down from the chicken. I also included some onions in it. I could have put them under with the rest of the potatoes. I love the taste of caramelized onions, like cooked in chicken fat. And as you can see, it's getting, it's getting pretty gold on the top. Sometimes people get worried because it gets a little too brown. If your oven is running hot, which means that it's cooking to a higher temperature than it appears to be calibrated, you could also put aluminum foil over the top to protect that breast. Okay. So coming back over to our chicken over here. There's still a little bit of pink in there. So kind of the rule of thumb is you also want to get used to having a sense of what cooked meat should feel like. And what people talk about is like using your hand. So again, it's practice. You kind of like, okay, what does that feel like to me? It's firm, but there's still a little bit of give to it. So that's kind of what I'm looking for here. This is still pretty soft, like when I touch it with my tongue. And the other thing too is like, don't be afraid to use a thermometer, right? We use instant read thermometers all the time because we want to ensure consistency. there's absolutely nothing wrong with using a pan, like one of the digital thermometers. The one thing that you do want to be careful is sometimes I find that some of the temperatures are a little bit excessive. Obviously, we're not serving chicken medium rare. We're not serving chicken tartare, but it is really easy to overcook a piece of chicken. You do still want to see juice running, but you need to make sure that the juice is running clear. All right. Oh, look how pretty it looks like on the other side. Christine and I know what we're having for lunch. So the other thing too about like when you're cooking with chicken is there's so many different flavor profiles that you could do with this, right? So if I wanted to, my rub could have been a spicy rub, inspired by Indian flavors. I could have gone in an Asian direction and used Chinese 5-spice. There's so many different things that you can do with chicken, and that's why I think it's so important for people to understand how to break it down, how to cook it, like how to roast it, how to pan fry it. And as I said, the other thing too is that the byproduct, when you break down the chicken, in about 2 hours, I'm going to be able to have a really quick chicken soup by just, covering this with cold water, boiling it, bringing it to a boil, have the scum come to the top. I clear that off, and then I add my vegetables. And in about 2 hours time, I'll have a really quick and easy little chicken soup. What I'm going to do is there's still a little bit of time left for that to cook, but I'm going to actually make my pan sauce. And this, I'm going to take this off the heat a second. This is going to splatter because I'm adding that moisture. So I also could have measured out the lemon into a glass measuring cup, and then my pour would have been a little bit more consistent. And I'm not going to be overly concerned about the fact that there's seeds in there. I'm not obviously going to serve my family seeds. What I am going to do is I'm going to add a few capers here. I'm going to add about a tablespoon. So 3 teaspoons in a tablespoon. And I am going to add a little bit of that brininess, the brine from the capers. And now I'm going to put the chicken back and sort of let it cook in that sauce a little bit. Now I would very comfortably serve this, with some pasta. I would serve it with rice. You could serve it with roasted potatoes, the broccoli, the green beans, and you have a really quick meal, super nice and easy. Are there other questions?
Yeah, George asks, what are the pros and cons about roasting a whole chicken breast side down for some time before flipping it to finish it?
I think that the breast side down method, I use it myself. I do use it occasionally. I think that it's a great method to use if you feel very comfortable manipulating a bird and flipping it. The challenge is that some people don't necessarily have the tools that they need to flip that bird, because you want to make sure, obviously given what happened to me last week, you don't want to put yourself in a position that you're going to burn yourself. So you really want to make sure that you have like the proper, I have these big forks that I use that I kind of insert on both sides of the chicken and I flip it. You also, if you have an old pair of oven mitts, you could also just put on the oven mitts and do it that way. They also there's candy making gloves that are used to do like all of the sugar work that are, high resistance to temperature. There's also the grill gloves so that you have something to manipulate it. I think it's actually a great method. America's Test Kitchen, I think on their website and in some of their materials has a really good method for doing that. What George is referring to is that some people, when they roast a chicken, there's so many different ways to roast a chicken. One method is to start with the breast side down. And what's happening is you're letting all of the juices, all of the fat from the chicken is flowing into the breast and keeping it moist.
So I noticed in your roasted chicken that you didn't tuck the little wings underneath, like they sometimes tell you to, so they don't burn.
The chips might be a little bit golden. You certainly could. When you're doing the truss, I just trust the legs. You can also trust the wings to prevent, the little burnt tips. But when I'm cooking for my family, I'm not going to get overly fussed about some of those things. My objective is to get a delicious and healthy meal on the table. That's what I'm looking to do. But you certainly can do it. And I think that those are certainly techniques that, people, I think it's really important for people to understand why those techniques exist. And really what we're doing when we're trussing that chicken is we're trying to make sure that we're making the chicken as compact as possible so it's cooking evenly throughout.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
I'm going to go ahead and I still got a little pink going.
Actually, I was wondering why you didn't pound that down a little bit.
I could have. Probably the reason I didn't pound it down a little bit is that I didn't, what I would use to pound it. So let me tell you, originally, this was the chicken that I was going to use this chicken breast. This is a Statler breast. So this refers to a breast that has a little bit of that first joint of the wing. This is very popular in restaurant service because we're able to give you a little bit of a larger portion other than just the breast. So this is what I was going to use originally, and it is thinner than what I had in the pan. But because I broke down the chicken and I had the breast right there, I thought that it would be good for us to show. It's a very valid point. I probably, if I had pounded it down, the cooking time would have been less. And what I would do, not many people, it used to be very common, probably, even when we were growing up, probably more so for our parents' generation, that people had a meat tenderizer, like a mallet that had sort of the rough surface. And what you would do is you would pound it down and you kind of would be breaking down a little bit of the protein in the meat to make it a little bit more tender. We don't necessarily need to do that anymore because most of our meat comes in the form that we want to use it. So I probably couldn't. So what I sometimes do is I take a saucepan, take like my, 4-quart or 5-quart saucepan, and I use that. I use it, put a piece of wax paper, put the chicken breast in between wax paper, and I use that to pound it. It's a little loud, so I would wait till everyone in your house is up. I have a tendency to cook early in the morning, and at times my teenagers were like, could you just hold off on pounding on the counter or using the blender or the juicer? But they get paid in good food. So.
Does it make any difference though in the flavor of the chicken if you pound it down?
I think that if you have, oh my God, do you see how caramelized the sauce is getting? Yummy. Sorry, I'm admiring my sauce and smelling my sauce. I don't think that it necessarily does. I think if you cook it properly, look at that. If you cook it properly, you're going to get that nice color. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take this, off the heat. And I'm going to let that rest for just a few seconds. What I am doing is I am taking the sauce off of the heat because I don't want the sauce to continue cooking because it could, because it has that butter in it, it could actually burn. But what I am going to do is I am going to take a little bit of heat. You want to get to a point in your cooking that you understand. And usually, as I said, as you're just getting started, a digital pen, like one of the thermometer pens, is usually a good way to go. It is not a good idea to take your meat and cut it right through the middle to see that it's cooked. Because if you do that right after you've taken it off of the heat, you're going to lose all of the juices. Because the protein needs to have, you might have heard of the concept of resting. The protein needs to rest for about 5 minutes to make sure that everything has come back together. If you cut it right at that minute, you're going to lose all of that juice. The other thing that's happening while it's resting is that it's actually finishing that cooking process. It's going those final degrees to where we need it to go. So while that's resting, I'm going to pull that chicken out so you can see it on all sides. And the similar methodology that I used for cutting the, oh, look at that. It's looking pretty. So what I would be doing to check if this is done, and I think it's still a few minutes, is I would be looking right here in the cavity. Here, let's put it, I think she needs horizontal. In the cavity to see if there's any like reddish liquid still in there. And there still seems to be a little bit in there. So I'm gonna put it back. I'm actually gonna turn it the other way, but we're getting that really nice golden color. And I can see that like the chicken liver that are there, those are all cooked. The other thing is that if you have pets, giving them like the chicken, like you can give them like the raw gizzard, liver, the neck. It's actually, my dog loves it. So she's a very well-fed puppy. All right, so I'm coming over here. It was a little bit less than 5 minutes, but I am gonna take a chance. Yeah, there we go. All right, that's still a little bit pink, right? Because maybe I should have pounded it. So I'm just gonna put it back in the pan. And again, I'm not gonna freak out. I'm like, oh well, didn't happen. That one's on the bottom. Give it a quick heat of heat, but I know that this piece is cooked, so I'm gonna taste it. The combination of the lemon and the caper and the olive oil and the butter might be one of my favorite things. It tastes really good. We're gonna give that another 2 minutes and then I'm gonna feed Christine her lunch and breakfast. Does anybody have any other questions?
Did you salt that chicken?
I did.
Okay.
And I always use kosher salt. That's what I use to season.
Okay. Well, any other questions for this part? Nope, we're pretty quiet.
All right. So what I just wanted to say, like, I don't think that we're gonna have time to break down the roasted chicken. But what I want you to go back to, and you can look back on the tape, is go back to that, what I talked about breaking down the raw chicken, okay? You're gonna take your roasted chicken out of the oven. You're gonna let it sit. A whole chicken should sit between about 15 minutes. And then just kind of play with it. You'll untie the truss, pull those legs apart, and you will see where that skin is, where you can cut right through and get down to the bone. Again, on the other side. Get that leg and thigh off and then cut between the leg and the thigh bone to get your leg and your thigh. Then from the breast, you can cut down, take the breast and then divide that into 2 pieces. In French culinary school, we're taught to break down it's 8 pieces. So the 8 pieces that I have are the 2 legs, the 2 thighs, and then each breast is split into 2. And then I would have those 8 pieces of chicken. That's sort of the traditional way that we're taught to cut a whole chicken in culinary school.
We have a question of, do you ever baste the chicken while it's roasting?
You know what? I actually don't baste my chicken when it's roasting. This is a relatively small bird that I'm working with, a 5-pound bird. If you're working with an 8 or 10-pound bird, like much bigger bird, like you'd probably find an 8-pounder, is probably the biggest you could find. I might, but chicken has a lot of fat. Actually, Christine, if you come in here, there's like a fat layer right under that skin. And that really acts sort of as a natural baster, right? And there's also chicken fat, like in the back cavity of the chicken. I might be able to see it here. Here. This is all fat. So if you actually wanted to have like a really natural, and you could render that fat, which means to melt it down. You could cook potatoes in that, or you could render it down. And what I mean is, like, you put it in a saucepan and on a low heat, you heat it up and all the liquid will come out. You can use that to cook potatoes in. So right now, the potatoes that we cook at the end, they're confit, which means they're cooked in fat. So you could actually cook your potatoes in some of that fat, and it would be really delicious. Or you could use that rendered fat to baste the chicken.
Do you think the pan-cooked chicken would freeze well?
To be honest with you, it's so quick to make when it's a little bit thinner, then that's good. I wouldn't. I think that I think it would dry out, to be honest with you.
Okay, so just eat it right away.
Yeah, like we're about to do.
Okay. Anita asks, did you use oil to cook thighs? Do you
Um,
use oil?
if I'm oven roasting or putting them on the grill, I do not.
They have
I,
enough fat.
I season them liberally with either camp mix or something called adobo, which is a Puerto Rican seasoning. I put them on the grill, and I think they're perfectly juicy.
Okay. Um, I saw this thing on America's Test Kitchen, where they turn the oven off. They like cook the chicken for a while and they turn it off. Do you do that?
I've tried it. I think it's a little bit longer of a cooking process. And to be honest, what I was trying to think of here is things that you would be doing during the week,
Mm-hmm.
right? I have time, like I'll do some of that. Here's the finished.
Oh, yum.
And if I wanted to like kick up the presentation of it, like I could slice some of the lemons and put some lemon rings around it. I could hit it with a little bit of parsley.
Mm-hmm. It's gorgeous.
Chicken is not one of those things, like if you were doing like a chicken pot pie, like I could totally see you freezing that. But like a pan fried chicken or roasted chicken, that's not something that I would freeze. I would freeze chicken stock, right? But I wouldn't freeze something like this.
Okay. Do you ever cook a brick over the chicken?
Oh, it's delicious.
Mm-hmm.
Really good. I think the key thing is being able to find a brick or be able to replicate the weight. The important part to know for doing that is knowing how it's called spatchcocking, and great word, isn't it? Great British. And basically what spatchcocking the chicken means is that you're basically cutting through the back of the chicken and you're making it like you make the chicken look like a butterfly. And really all you need to do is you're basically cutting through the back, or actually what you could do, you could just cut out the back. I think you guys kind of saw me like make my way around. You could cut out the back and then lay the chicken flat. So basically, the breast is in the center and then you have the two legs on the side. And what you're doing is you're thinning out the chicken. It accelerates the rate at which you're cooking it, and then you have that beautiful brick on it. You can do the brick on the grill. Some people also do like a pan fry the chicken with a brick on it in a frying pan. But I think they're both fantastic methods of cooking chicken.
Oh, thank you. So any other last final questions?
Make sure you wrap that brick in aluminum foil. Okay.
Oh, yes. Yep.
Sorry, I wanted. One of my favorite stories about Julia Child, she spent her cookbook, Mastering the Art of French Cooking, is probably one of the most meticulously researched books. And she talks about how one of the hardest recipes for them to develop was the recipe for a baguette, how to replicate, using American flour, American ovens. And they figured out that if you put an asbestos tile in the oven, that it would give you that crispy texture, but then that really beautiful interior of the bread. The book came out, and about 2 or 3 months later, it was discovered how carcinogenic asbestos was, and they thought they were done, like that was going to be the end of the cookbook. Obviously, that part of the book has been taken out, but we need to experiment. So those bricks, if you're using a brick, please make sure that you have wrapped it and that it's a food safe brick or food safe weight that you can use when you're doing something like that.
Mm-hmm. So Donna asks if the recipes are online. I sent the 2 recipes to everybody the other day, and I'll send it again today when I send the video link. And some of the other recipes, like the spatchcocking and the brick and all of that, I'm sure you can find online.
And what I'll do is, if I find a good explanation or a link to spatchcocking, I'll send that link along. The other thing is that I will send along the 1 pan roasted chicken, because I also think that that's a super easy thing to do. And you could do it. I know that you can buy like a package of whole chicken, like it's already cut down by the butcher, if you don't want to try it. But I really would encourage you, if you've never broken down a chicken, if you've never roasted a chicken, try it. And as I've said in all of these classes, if you have any questions, I am only an email away. I can be reached at tpkennealy@inn@hastingspark.com, and Mina can share that email. I truly mean it. If you have questions, just ask. It used to be that we had people in our families or people that we knew that we could ask these questions, and we don't always have that in today's world. So I'm happy to be that resource if you have any questions about any of the things that I've demonstrated today. The most important thing is that I want you to cook. I want you to get out there. I want you to cook for yourselves, for your friends, for your family, and really find the joy and just love and comfort that I have with being in the kitchen.
Trisha, I just want you to take a quick second to talk about what's going on at the inn other than the cooking classes. Are you open for business? Are you,
Sure,
what's
it
going
would be
on?
my pleasure. And a big shout out to Christine. Christine, let's flip the camera in.
Nope, that's okay.
She's like, I'm not saying
Hi.
today. So Christine is my absolutely amazing general manager. She's been our general manager for over 1.5 years. Christine more so than I, we spent a lot of our summer down in Rhode Island working at our sister properties because they were open earlier than we were. We have been opened, our restaurant has been opened for lunch and dinner, Tuesdays through Sunday. Sunday we're only open for brunch. But we have some fantastic new things on our menu. Our new executive chef, who had been our sous chef for the last year, Michael Simon, is amazing. There's some fantastic dishes on the menu. Our hotel, we've been open, 50% of our rooms have been available this month, but starting today, all 22 rooms are now available. We have over 26 pages about a protocol that we're adhering to keep both our employees and our guests safe. We've had guests and we're delighted to welcome them back. The best thing that you can do to help Lexington get back on its feet is to come out and support your local businesses. If you don't feel comfortable coming for a staycation or having friends come for a staycation, come and eat outside on the porch. Come and eat in the culinary garden. If you're still not ready for that, I understand. Everything that we do, we're doing for takeout. And in the next few days, we actually will be announcing our takeout menus. I know it's hard to believe, but it is October 1st. We will be announcing our takeout menus and our seating plan for our Thanksgiving, Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, New Year's Eve, and New Year's Day offerings, because we know that people are going to want to plan a little bit earlier so that they're still able to celebrate with their family and their friends. And we would love to be a part of that celebration. We also hope to be opening for breakfast, probably, probably at the end of October. But the most important thing that you can do, if you haven't been to the inn, please come and try us out for the first time. If you've been a loyal customer, please, please, please come back. You can make reservations online. You can reserve tables outside. We have 4 tables outside, and we're adhering to all of the rules that have been established by the Commonwealth in terms of our interior seating. If you've been to the inn, you know that our restaurant is actually quite spacious. We're only seating 24 people at a time, so there's more than ample physical distance between you and your fellow diners. But please, please come and see us. We'd love to have you.
Awesome. Carrie asks, what and where in Rhode Island?
So we are part of the Ocean House Management Group. The flagship hotel in the group is the Ocean House down in Watch Hill, Rhode Island. There's also the Weekapaw, which is located in Westerly, the Watch Hill Inn, which is down the hill from the Ocean House, and the newest member of the family is the Preserve.
Okay. And I just wanted to say that your next session of this Back to Basics program is Thursday, November 5th. I have no idea what we decided to talk about that day. So
I think we're doing beef. I think the next thing is beef. I could be wrong.
Okay. I'll look back at my notes, but I'll get that on the calendar. And I hope you all will join us for that. Thank you, Trisha, as always. Thank you, Christina, for helping us see every little bit of the wonderful, delicious food you just made. And we'll see you in November. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Have a good day.
Yes, sir.